Retirement is not an age, it's a regime change. And like every regime change, people misunderstand it. They think retirement is a finish line, a reward after decades of work. But in finance, there is no finish line. There is only risk, shifting from one form to another. Before retirement, your main risk is usually income risk. Can I earn enough? After retirement, your main risk becomes sequence risk. What happens if markets fall at the wrong time while you're withdrawing? That single difference can decide whether your money lasts 40 years or collapses in 7. So today I'm giving you 5 things you must do before retirement. Not the popular advice, but the professional advice. Build optionality. Reduce fragility. Design your withdrawals, protect against the regime you don't want to imagine, and make decisions while you still have flexibility. And stay until the end, because I'll give you a simple tool I call the Retirement Stress Test. 5 questions that reveal whether you're truly ready or just hopeful. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is 5 things you need to do before retirement. Quick disclaimer, this is educational content, not financial advice. I'm not your advisor and I don't know your personal circumstances. Use this as a framework and adapt it responsibly. Now, why should you listen to me on this topic? Because retirement is where normal people make one invisible mistake that costs them the most. They plan retirement as if the future will be average. But markets are not average. Life is not average. And retirement is where uncertainty becomes expensive. So we will plan like professionals, with fallibility, scenarios, and margin of safety. Most retirement plans are built on one fragile assumption: the market will cooperate. But the market doesn't care about your timing. If the first 3 to 5 years of retirement include a deep drawdown, it can permanently damage your plan, even if returns later recover. That's sequence risk. So the goal before retirement is not just to have enough money. It's to have a structure that survives bad timing. This is why the 5 actions we'll cover today matter so much. Here's the roadmap. The 5 things you must do before retirement are: build a margin of safety buffer, so you don't sell at the worst time. Design your withdrawal system before you need it. Eliminate fragility, debt, fixed costs, and hidden liabilities. Stress test your plan across 5 scenarios, not one forecast. Decide what retirement actually means for you: purpose, structure, and optionality. And I'll make it practical. What to calculate, what to set up, what decisions to make while you still have leverage. Later, I'll give you the retirement stress test. 5 questions. If you can answer them clearly, you're probably ready. If you can't, you're not behind. You're just missing structure. And structure is fixable. All right, in part 2, we start with the first and most important thing you need before retirement: a margin of safety buffer that protects you from sequence risk. Let's go. If you remember only one thing from this entire episode, remember this: retirement fails more often from bad timing than from bad math. You can have a good portfolio, you can have decent long-term returns, you can even be right, and still fail if you're forced to sell during a major drawdown early in retirement. That is sequence risk. So the first thing you need before retirement is not a stock tip. It's a margin of safety buffer. A buffer that prevents forced selling. A buffer that gives you time. A buffer that lets your portfolio recover while you continue living. This is how professionals think. We assume we can be wrong. And we build a structure that survives being wrong. Imagine 2 retirees, same portfolio, same average return over 10 years. But one retires into a bull market, and the other retires into a crash. The second person withdraws while prices are down. Even if markets recover later, that early damage can be permanent, because you sold shares at low prices, and those shares can't participate in the recovery anymore. That's sequence risk. The order of returns matters when you're withdrawing. Before retirement, you add money. A crash can be an opportunity. After retirement, you withdraw money. A crash can be a threat. So your first job is to remove forced behavior from the system. Here's the buffer rule. Before you retire, build a reserve that covers 12 to 24 months of core living expenses. Some people can justify less. Some people should hold more, especially if they are risk-averse, have volatile spending, or have weak other income sources. The point is not the exact number. The point is the function. It lets you live without selling risk assets during a drawdown. This is not being conservative. This is being intelligent about regime change. Retirement is a regime change. I've seen this repeatedly. The retiree with a buffer behaves like a professional. The retiree without a buffer behaves like a victim. When markets fall, the buffered retiree continues life normally. They rebalance calmly. They don't liquidate at the worst time. The retiree without a buffer feels pressure, immediately sells because they must then regret it later. And regret is expensive. So the buffer is not about returns, it's about behavior. When I say 12 to 24 months of living expenses, I mean core expenses. Core expenses are the costs that keep you alive and stable. Housing basics, utilities, food insurance, healthcare, basic transportation, minimum necessary obligations, not luxury travel, not expensive entertainment, not gifts for everyone. Those are real desires, but they are not core stability. You calculate the core first, then build the buffer. If your core is $3,000 a month, then 12 months equals $36,000. 24 months equals $72,000. This number changes everything, because now you know what safety actually costs. Now the question people ask next, where should I keep the buffer? The mistake is chasing yield and forgetting the purpose. The buffer has one purpose, liquidity plus stability. So it should live in places that are accessible, not volatile, not correlated with your risk assets in a crisis. This is why the buffer is not the place to be clever. It's the place to be safe. Here's the basic structure I like. Bucket A, safety buffer, 12 to 24 months. This is your do not panic fund. Bucket B, growth portfolio, long term. This is where compounding continues, because retirement can last decades. The buffer prevents you from selling bucket B at the wrong time. This is a simple system that survives regimes, bull markets, bear markets, sideways, markets, inflation shocks. Is it perfect? No, but perfection is not required. Survival is required. A buffer is not set it and forget it. You need a refill rule. Here's the simplest one. In strong markets, refill the buffer back toward your target. In weak markets, spend from the buffer and avoid selling risk assets. This is not market timing. This is risk management. You're not predicting the future. You're preventing forced behavior. That is the Soros mindset applied to retirement. Fallibility plus optionality plus survival. In part 3, we go to the second thing you must do before retirement. Design your withdrawal system before you're forced to improvise. Most people wait until they retire, then they figure it out. That's how they sell in panic, withdraw too much, or tax themselves unnecessarily. We'll build a withdrawal system that adapts to regimes so you can stay calm even when markets aren't. Here is the uncomfortable truth about retirement. If you do not design your withdrawal system before you retire, your emotions will design it for you after you retire. And emotions are terrible financial planners. So the second thing you must do before retirement is simple. Build a withdrawal system with rules and guardrails. Not because rules are nice, because rules prevent ruin. This is again the professional mindset. We assume fallibility. Markets can disappoint, we can misjudge, and we create structure that survives. Before retirement, you're accumulating. The plan is simple. Earn, save, invest, repeat. After retirement, you're decumulating. Now you're withdrawing while uncertainty continues. So you face 3 risks simultaneously. Sequence risk, early drawdowns, longevity risk, living longer than expected. Inflation risk, your expenses rising over decades. If you withdraw too aggressively early, you create permanent damage. If you withdraw too conservatively, you may live unnecessarily small. So the goal isn't one perfect withdrawal rate. The goal is a system that adapts to conditions. This is how professionals think, not a single forecast, a set of rules. I'll give you a practical system. Layer 1, the paycheck layer, stable spending. This is what you withdraw for core living expenses. You keep it steady and predictable. Layer 2, the flex layer, variable spending. This is where travel, upgrades, and extras live. This is what you adjust when markets are bad. Why this works? It preserves dignity. Your core life remains stable. And it preserves your portfolio. Your flexible spending absorbs volatility. This is a crucial retirement truth. Flexibility is a financial asset. If you have flexibility, you reduce the need to sell at the worst time. Let's say your retirement spending target is $60,000 per year. You split it. Core spending, $45,000. Flexible spending, $15,000. In a bad market year, you don't panic sell the portfolio to maintain luxuries. You cut the flexible spending temporarily. That one behavioral adjustment can save your plan. People hate this because it sounds like sacrifice. It isn't sacrifice. It's intelligent design. Now we add guardrails. A guardrail system works like this. If your portfolio is strong, you can increase withdrawals slightly. If your portfolio is weak, you reduce withdrawals. This prevents you from withdrawing too much during drawdowns. Think of it as a thermostat. You're not predicting weather, you're responding to reality. A simple guardrail approach. Define a baseline withdrawal plan. Set upper and lower triggers. Adjust spending modestly when triggers are hit. The details can vary, but the principle is consistent. Withdrawals must adapt to portfolio health. This is how you defeat sequence risk without guessing. If you do nothing else, do this. In bad market years, withdraw less. That's it. It sounds obvious, but most people do the opposite. They withdraw the same amount no matter what, because they planned a fixed lifestyle. That's fragile. So you plan a lifestyle with built-in flexibility. This is why I emphasized the buffer in part 2. The buffer plus reduced withdrawals during drawdowns is an extremely powerful combination. Here's a major reason you design withdrawals before retirement: taxes. Retirement is not just how much you withdraw, it's from where you withdraw. Different accounts are taxed differently, so withdrawal order can change your net income dramatically. Even if you're not an expert, you can do one smart thing. Know your account types and create a planned sequence. Because improvising taxes is expensive, and expensive mistakes compound against you. Here's a professional move. Before you retire, run a 1-year retirement simulation. Live on your planned retirement spending for 12 months while still employed and invest the difference. This does two things. It reveals whether your plan is realistic. It increases your buffer and optionality. This is a stress test of behavior, not just spreadsheets. Because retirement success is mostly behavioral. In part 4, we go to the third thing you must do before retirement. Eliminate fragility. That means reduce debt, reduce fixed costs, anticipate healthcare and hidden liabilities, and make sure your life cannot force you into bad decisions. Because in retirement, fragility doesn't just reduce returns. Fragility can end the plan. If retirement is a regime change, fragility is the enemy of the new regime. Before retirement, you can recover from mistakes with labor income. After retirement, your margin for error shrinks because your income becomes withdrawals. So the third thing you must do before retirement is this: eliminate fragility. Fragility is any condition where a small shock causes a large negative outcome. In retirement, shocks are not rare. Health expenses, family obligations, market drawdowns, inflation, surprises, repairs, taxes, insurance increases. If you enter retirement fragile, you become reactive, and reactive behavior destroys compounding. Let's make this practical. Before retirement, you must audit fragility in 3 categories: financial fragility, debt and obligations; lifestyle fragility, high fixed costs; liability fragility, healthcare insurance gaps, and surprises. A robust retirement plan is not just assets. It's a design that survives liabilities. Debt in retirement is dangerous for one simple reason: debt payments are fixed. Markets are not. A fixed obligation plus volatile portfolio equals forced decisions. So the retirement goal is not to have zero debt at all costs, but to eliminate debt that creates fragility. The debt hierarchy: what to address first. High interest consumer debt. Dangerous, usually first priority. Variable rate debt. Dangerous because rates can rise unpredictably. Large fixed payments that strain cash flow. Dangerous because they remove flexibility. The core idea in retirement: flexibility is wealth. Debt reduces flexibility. I've seen retirees who technically have enough money, but they carry a large monthly obligation. Even if their portfolio is big, the obligation forces withdrawals at bad times. It becomes an invisible mortgage on their freedom. They don't feel retired. They feel like they have a boss, called monthly payments. So before retirement, reduce obligations that turn your life into a fixed cost machine. This is the biggest hidden risk. Most retirees underestimate how much fixed costs control them. Fixed costs include housing costs, maintenance, taxes, HOA, car payments and insurance subscriptions, and recurring bills. Expensive routines that become normal. Here's the rule: design retirement around a low fixed cost core. Not a low quality life, just a low obligation life. Because when markets fall or expenses rise, you need space to adapt. If your fixed costs are high, you can't adapt. So when I look at retirement readiness, I look less at net worth and more at how flexible is your lifestyle. Calculate core monthly burn, essentials, unavoidable obligations. Then ask, if markets fall 30%, can I maintain core burn without panic for 2 years? If the answer is no, your plan may be fragile, even if your savings look large. This is why we built the buffer and withdrawal system earlier. Now we're removing the causes of forced behavior. Now we go to the category people avoid because it's uncomfortable. Healthcare. It's uncomfortable because it's uncertain, and uncertainty scares people. But ignoring uncertainty doesn't remove it. It just makes it more expensive later. So before retirement, understand your coverage, understand your out-of-pocket risk, and plan for health surprises as part of the financial system, not as an emergency exception. The key principle: healthcare risk is retirement sequence risk in disguise. One major health expense early in retirement can force withdrawals at the worst time. So you design adequate coverage and a dedicated medical contingency bucket if needed. Again, structure over hope. Housing is emotional. People want to keep a home forever because it feels like identity. But housing can create retirement fragility through maintenance surprises, property taxes, insurance, increases, large repairs, and location constraints. This is not a command to sell your house. It's a reminder. A house is not just an asset. It's a liability schedule. If your retirement plan depends on a house never causing a surprise, your plan is fragile. So before retirement, you either budget for the surprises or redesign the housing choice to reduce future liability. Here's something professionals know. Complex systems break more easily. Before retirement, simplify. Reduce unnecessary accounts, reduce recurring payments, reduce hidden obligations, consolidate where it makes sense, remove anything that creates ongoing mental load. Why? Because retirement is not only finance, it's cognition, it's energy, it's attention. A simpler system is easier to manage during stress. And stress will happen. In part 5, we go to the fourth thing you must do before retirement. Stress test your plan across scenarios. Not one forecast, not one average return, scenarios. Because the future is uncertain, and retirement is where uncertainty is expensive. I'll walk you through 5 retirement scenarios. Strong markets, weak early markets, high inflation, long life, and a shock year. With health or family costs. Then we'll build adjustments that keep you safe. Now we do the most professional step. Because it is the most honest step. We admit fallibility. We admit we don't know the future. And instead of pretending we can predict it, we build a plan that survives multiple futures. This is what I mean by a stress test. Most retirement plans are built on one fragile story. Markets will return 7% per year and inflation will behave. That story might be true, or it might be the story that breaks you. So before retirement, you must stress test your plan across scenarios. Because retirement is not a spreadsheet, it is a decades-long exposure to uncertainty. Let's build your stress test. Here are the 5 questions. Write them down. 1. If markets drop 30% in your first year of retirement, what happens? Can you live for 12 to 24 months from your buffer without selling risk assets? 2. If inflation stays high for 5 years, what happens? Which expenses explode? Can you adjust spending? 3. If you live 10 years longer than expected, what happens? Does your plan still work, or do you run out? 4. If you have one shock year, health, family, that costs a lot, what happens? Do you have a dedicated contingency, or do you liquidate at the wrong time? If your plan requires perfect behavior, is it really a plan? Is your system designed for humans or robots? If you can answer these clearly, your retirement plan is likely resilient. If you can't, don't panic. That's the point of the stress test, to reveal where to build margin. Now let's translate those questions into 5 scenarios. You don't need complex software to do this. You just need scenario thinking and conservative assumptions. Here are the 5 scenarios. Scenario A. Normal, average markets. This is what most plans assume. We include it, but we don't worship it. Scenario B. Bad start, sequence risk scenario. Markets decline early in retirement. This is the one that destroys plans. Scenario C. High inflation regime. Prices rise faster than expected for years. This quietly destroys purchasing power. Scenario D. Long life regime. You live longer than planned. Longevity turns a safe plan into a fragile plan. Scenario E, shock year. A major expense arrives early. Health, family, repair, legal issue, relocation. Now, we don't need perfect modeling. We need a robust structure that responds. So I'm going to give you a simple way to run each scenario with your own numbers. Here's a simple method. Step 1, define your core annual spending. Call it C. Core means essential plus necessary baseline. Step 2, define your buffer. Call it B. Your buffer is your do not sell fund, 12 to 24 months of core expenses. Step 3, define your flexible spending. Call it F. This is your travel, upgrades, extras, the part you can reduce in a bad year. Now you can run scenarios by asking, in a bad market year, can I reduce F? Can I live from B for a period? Do I have contingency for a shock? This is not about precision. It's about identifying fragility points. Now let's walk through each scenario and the adjustment that makes it survivable. This scenario is why we built the buffer and withdrawal rules. If markets drop early, the plan is spend from the buffer, reduce flexible spending, avoid selling risk assets at depressed prices, refill buffer later when markets recover. Your stress test question is simple. Can you do this for 12 to 24 months without breaking your life? If not, your plan needs more margin, bigger buffer, lower fixed costs, more flexible spending, or delayed retirement, part-time income optionality. The professional move is to build optionality before you need it. Inflation is dangerous because it doesn't feel like a crash. It feels like a slow theft. The stress test here is not, can my portfolio grow? It's, can my spending adapt? Ask, which expenses are inflation sensitive? Do I have pricing power in my life? Income flexibility, part-time consulting? Can I reduce consumption without destroying quality of life? A resilient retirement includes flexibility in spending and a portfolio structure that isn't dependent on one regime. Again, we're not forecasting inflation. We're building the ability to survive it. Longevity is a beautiful problem until it becomes a financial one. Most people underestimate how long retirement can last. So your stress test is, if you live longer, do your withdrawals still make sense? This is where lower fixed costs, flexible spending, and a disciplined withdrawal rule protect you. Because a plan that just barely works for 25 years can fail for 35. Longevity is why compounding never stops being relevant. You don't stop investing in retirement. You just invest with a different risk structure. In real life, there is always a shock year. It might be a medical event, helping family, major home repair, relocation, legal, or tax surprise. If your plan has no shock absorption, the shock becomes forced selling. So you design a contingency bucket, insurance clarity, and a simple rule where the money comes from in a shock year. This is what separates a plan from a hope. This is what I want you to understand. Retirement planning is not about being right. It's about being robust. Soros-style thinking is accept fallibility, create margin of safety, build optionality, avoid ruin. If your retirement plan works only when markets are friendly and life is quiet, it is not a plan. It is a fragile story. So the stress test forces you to build a structure that survives. Bad timing inflation surprises longer life and shocks mind. Now, one more step remains. We've built the financial structure. But retirement is not only finance. Retirement is meaning and identity. That's the fifth thing you must do. In part 6, we'll cover the last thing you must do before retirement. Define what retirement means for you. Because the biggest retirement risk isn't only money. It's boredom, loss of structure, loss of identity, and spending to fill the emptiness. I'll show you how to design retirement like a professional, with purpose, structure, and optionality. Then we'll close with a concise 5 things recap and a strong call to action. We've covered buffers, withdrawals, fragility, and stress tests. Now we address the thing that ruins more retirements than people admit. Retirement without structure. People think retirement is escape from work, but work is not just income. Work is identity, routine, social contact, goals, feedback, meaning. When you remove those suddenly, your life can become unstructured. And unstructured lives create expensive behaviors, boredom, spending, gambling in markets for excitement, lifestyle, inflation, chasing status because purpose is missing. So the 5th thing you must do before retirement is not financial. It is existential, and it has financial consequences. Define what retirement means for you and design structure around it. This is also Soros-style thinking. If your beliefs change, your behavior changes. If your behavior changes, your outcomes change. That's reflexivity again, inside your own life. Many people retire and then return to work, not because they need money, but because they need structure. They miss being useful, being respected, being challenged, being part of something you did. So before you retire, answer this. What will give you meaning when work is gone? If you don't answer it, the world will answer it for you through consumption. And consumption is rarely a stable source of meaning. Design retirement like a portfolio. Core, the non-negotiables: health, relationships, routine, growth, learning, building, contribution. Optionality, flexibility for travel, exploration, and change. Here's a simple structure you can actually use. 1. Your weekly structure. Pick 3 anchors. Health routine, social routine, purpose routine. Examples: fitness, 3 to 4 times a week. Weekly family social commitment, 1 project or mission you work on consistently. 2. Your purpose project. 1 meaningful project that creates momentum. Mentoring, part-time consulting, volunteering, building something, writing, teaching, community work. A small business with joy, not stress. 3. Your optionality plan. Keep room for change. Retirement is not 1 chapter, it's many chapters. And the ability to adapt is a form of wealth. Let's be direct. If you retire with no structure, your brain will try to create stimulation, often through spending. It looks like upgrades, shopping, frequent luxury habits, bigger travel than planned, why not purchases. It feels harmless at first, but it compounds, just in the wrong direction. So before retirement, build a life where you don't need spending to feel alive. That is a financial strategy disguised as a life strategy. Here's a professional move many people overlook. Partial retirement, a bridge phase. Instead of stopping completely, you transition. Fewer hours, select projects, flexible work, part-time income, optionality. This does 2 powerful things. Reduces the pressure on withdrawals, less sequence risk. Maintains structure and identity. It's the ultimate optionality play. It keeps you from making an irreversible decision too early. Professionals love reversible decisions. They avoid irreversible ones. Let's bring it all together. 1. Build a margin of safety buffer. 12 to 24 months of core expenses to defeat sequence risk and prevent forced selling. 2. Design your withdrawal system before you need it. Core spending stable, flexible spending adjustable, and guardrails for bad years. 3. Eliminate fragility. Reduce debt, lower fixed costs, and plan for healthcare and hidden liabilities. 4. Stress test across scenarios. Bad start, high inflation, long life, shock year. Build a plan that survives multiple futures. 5. Define what retirement means for you. Purpose plus structure, optionality, so your behavior doesn't sabotage your finances. That is the complete system. Retirement is not a number. It's a design. Let me end with the Soros lesson that applies to retirement better than almost anything. The future is uncertain. So build a structure that can survive uncertainty. If you do these 5 things, you're not just ready to retire. You become resilient, you become calm, you become able to adapt. And that is what financial freedom looks like in real life.